Welcome, one and all, back to Paranormal the New Normal. I'm your host, Jeremy, as always, trying to bring some normalcy to this world. Does it ever happen? Oh, Lord, no. Lord, no. It's not, it hasn't happened yet, and I don't think it's ever going to, but we persist. And of course, to do that, I have to bring a guest in the show to try and help me in this quest. My guest today, maybe he can help. Maybe. Everybody has a chance to help. It never usually works, but we'll see, because normal is not to be achieved in this world. But anyway, the guest is Michael McGinnis, award-winning author and a leader of a revolution. What kind of revolution, you may say? But we'll get to that in a little bit. But first things first, how you doing tonight, Mike?
Good. How you doing?
A little under the weather, but can't complain. It's just that time of year.
Yeah.
The show must go on, as they say. But
exactly. Thanks for having me on.
Of course. And the first question I ask everybody in this show is, what got you into the world of spirituality? What led you down this path?
I'd say I've had some big transformational experiences in my life. But I think when I really knew that it was the word spiritual would have probably been about 10 years ago when I went on a visionary journey with the plant medicine, and it ended up changing my life forever.
Plant medicine. I like plant medicine. I had someone from the Amazon on here who they run a whole retreat that specializes in plant medicine. So
I'm in a community. I'm in a community where that's what we do, and so I've had these experiences several times, but it was my first one was like the one that really set me on this. On the what you call it, in indigenous they call it El Camino Rojo, the red road, the road to awakening.
Ooh, Camino Rojo, I like that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, let me ask you this: since you're in the spiritual side of things, I'll change this question slightly. But when you were in your life, at any point, did you ever have any experiences with spirits, ghosts?
Yeah,
aliens, cryptids, if you want to go to the far side. That never comes up, but I always hope it does.
When I was a kid, I would always it's unexplainable what would happen. I think a lot of children have this, where you'll be laying down, close your eyes, and you'll move into some other place where these beings, and they were just in my presence, and I remember telling my dad, I think I was probably 6. And I think I told him, I said, I see. He said, what do you see? And I said, I see reality. And I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know how else to say it. And that was interesting. And then I have this other thing that happens to me quite often, actually, involuntarily still to this day. If I go to sleep in the daytime, I go into that, what do they call it? Where you kind of leave your body, astral travel. And it's not very comfortable, to be honest. And there definitely are beings in there. I've also experienced entities within the medicines as well. So all of this is real. Maybe we can't see it in the third dimensional trap, but there are ways of breaking through those walls. And I'm quite the psychonaut, and I've had these journeys and done it with and without medicine.
And yes, they call that astral projection most of the time.
Astral projection, yeah.
And you kind of described lucid dreaming in the first part. So,
well, the thing is that there's these. Sometimes there's messages that are being sent to me in this realm, and you can tell that there's a being there, and I've even felt myself be grabbed, believe it or not, as strange as that sounds, and not comfortable, not something that I enjoy. It just happens. I slip if I go to sleep in the daytime, that in between part, pretty much every single time I'll go. And sometimes there's this feeling of trying to suck me into something, and I'm resisting, and I'm not sure if I went with it, I would ever come back or not. It's like this weird question,
Exactly. I mean, I'll tell you, I've talked to a few people who astral project and lucid dream on the show before, and they always say, it's fun when you go to a good plane. When you don't go to a good plane, it's not so fun anymore, and it's more like being in a horror movie and having to escape. But
I agree.
So, I mean, that's kind of the glimpse of it I've gotten. And luckily, none of that stuff happens. Well, luckily or unluckily, depending on how you look at it, none of that stuff happens to me, unfortunately. I I don't dream. I haven't had a dream I remember since I was a kid.
Wow.
I I mean I okay, maybe that's not as yeah, I mean because I have premonitions once in a while, but I don't count those as dreams because they actually happen eventually, and they're always small, stupid things. It's not me winning the lottery or anything, unfortunately, but it's always, oh yeah, this conversation happened this day. Okay, doesn't help me in life, but okay, great to know. Well, you're an author first and foremost, and kind of well, the first question I like to ask every author is, how many books have you written? Because I know two, but I want to know if there's more.
No, I've written these two books, The Essential Revolution and The Invitation, which is a series. The third book will be called The Summoning. I plan to write many more books. And I'm doing at the moment everything in fiction and sort of what they would call allegorical fiction.
Hmm.
So, Celestine Prophecies, The Alchemist, um, you know, the Castaneda books, those kind of things. That's the style, but a different style, but that type of thing where you're in this drama and all this stuff unfolding, and at the same time there's these really strong messages.
Nice. I've read a few of those. I've read a few. Well, not the ones you mentioned, but I've read a few books like that in my life, and they're good because I like them because they teach something, and it's always a good story to go with it. I mean, it's a
Yeah.
lot like it's a lot like the old myths and legends of ancient times, almost in a way, because they all were there to teach people lessons and what not to do. I mean, in Greek, it was basically don't do what Zeus does, but other than that, like it was just usually like
Yeah.
that. But so these this series you started, how did it come to you? How did the idea come to you?
Believe it or not, I was in a ayahuasca ceremony, and I had a vision, and the vision had to do with it. Actually, at the end, it took me weeks to figure this out, but at the end, it was trying to show me that there was this piece of technology that could be made that would help people, instead a piece of AI even that would help people instead of hurt, and help them to grow spiritually. And it's what these guys create in the story, amongst all the turmoil and the people who are trying to stop that because they want the other AI to happen more. And these guys are taking an AI that actually helps people wake up spiritually through their issues in their life. And you speak to it, it knows everything, eventually. And it helps us reveal, the players in the world and what they're up to. Every does it all, right? And so that's what's in the story. And in book two and in book one, the guys are in prison, and the thing was just downloaded into me. And then so I knew about this technology thing that I had this idea for, which I'm not a person that's into technology at all. And I actually went out and tried to do something with it and lost a lot of money and said, okay, that's no good. And I kind of walked away from it. Walking down the street one day, literally, and this story goes into my head, and I get this voice that says, "You're going to write this novel." And I'm like, I don't know how to write novels. I don't know how to write anything. I don't know how to. I can read. That's it. And it just downloaded the whole story into me instantly. And I went and sat down and I started writing it. And some people looked at it and go, wow, you can write. And my dad's a writer. So, yeah, my mom too, actually. But my dad's like a novelist. And so, maybe yeah, it had something to do with it. I don't know. But they came out pretty good. It beat their page turners, that's for sure.
So I'm hearing like hints of I'm hearing hints of like a lot of cyberpunk nor fiction kind of. I mean, there's elements of Matrix and Terminator in there, which of course you have to have that. You're going to do anything with robots, but you have to. If it's AI, it kind of has to hit those two in some degree always. But it sounds thrilling. It really does. I mean, so they're in prison the first two books though.
First book.
Oh, first book. Okay.
Yeah. So this young man comes into our world in a very hard way, living in the ghetto, and he ends up getting into a situation where he's been tortured his whole life. He's 19, and something happens, and he has to defend his mom and himself, and he ends up getting thrown in prison afterwards. But he had died. He had died being shot by a police officer, and came back to life. And when he came back to life in the hospital, he was like almost like a Buddha figure, and brilliant. And yeah, he ends up helping wake up the world. But they help the prisoners in prison. They set up a program for the prisoners to go have an awakening in their lives as well. And when they get out, they go for it to do the same thing, but on a much bigger scale. And in prison, they've got everything from the Mexican mafia, this one gang that's trying to stop them because a lot of the guys aren't gambling anymore, aren't using drugs because they've found this other thing. And then you have the warden that's against them, and so you got a lot of drama. And in the second book, now we're outside and they're creating this technology, so they have the Mark Zuckermans of the world trying to buy the technology so it can't go out. And so the names are changed to protect the not so innocent.
Yeah. Oh, and to protect the innocent from getting copyright sued. So yeah, of course.
That's right. That's right.
Well, all right. Let me mention this because some of my favorite novels out there, Stephen King and the likes, I always like to ask this of fiction authors, but because it's when a book's from one point of view, it kind of gets a little boring after a while because it's like you want to see what the other people are thinking about the same reaction, what the reactions are to the same events. Is your book from one point of view or multiple points of view?
It's actually a multiple narration book. So I have in the first book 3 narrators, meaning the 3 characters. That's 3 other characters are actually telling us the story. And so you'll turn the page and that chapter will be done, and all of a sudden you'll have one and it'll say Zach underneath. So now Zach's talking to the reader. And in the second book, there's 6 characters that are actually reading the story to us. And I made it so that there are points of views from each of the characters. And then I would also say I have bias, there's no doubt about it. I'm not into this woke thing that's going on in our world, to be honest with you. And you can feel that, even though we have a very woke character, it's really fun. But that it does become satirical in a sense. And then this person has an awakening as well, and they stop pointing the finger out at people. So you can tell that I am going in a little bit more of a traditional trajectory, and also wanting to fix the world and the pollution and all the other things. It's all in there as well with the different characters. So yes, it comes from several points of view, but it all comes back to connection, oneness, and us, the collective getting together and maybe standing up to some of these people who aren't doing exactly what's in our best interest. And that's probably going to happen in the third book, I would imagine. Nice. I don't know.
And I mean,
I won't know until I sit down.
Well, personally, I am not a fan of woke culture either. I cannot stand it. It's caused a lot of problems for me in the past few years. But I'm not a fan of woke culture at all. I don't like the way this world's going in many different ways, but that's just one of them. But
that's right.
My listeners know that, so that's okay.
Good. Yeah, well, we're on the same page there. Yeah.
So if you wanted to write a book that has a message, I mean, why go fiction? I mean, is this meant for all ages, or is it meant for a certain age?
There's some language in it. I would say it's for, 16 and up, I would say. I mean, some kids have read it. It's not too bad with that. There's just some of the guys cuss and stuff. And the reason why I went fiction, well, to be honest with you, I don't really make any decisions. It's all like downloaded. I just sit there and write what comes through. But what happens when you do it in fiction is that you're in a way, because the character is narrating the story, you're in their mind. So somebody says something, about like, hey, everybody's doing the best what they can with what the tools they had in their tool chest, no matter what they did to you. And the first reaction for someone that's never heard that is bullcrap. There's no way. And so I let the narrator go through that process of saying no. And then our hero, Dimitri, says, well, this is why. And then they go back and forth. That person carries the resistance to that, I would call universal truth, and eventually comes around. So the reader gets to go through the process with them. So I think that's the reason why it came through in fiction. It's sort of, everything that we are going to do in the world, we imagine it first. So it's like a plan and imagination of what could happen in this world. And by the way, it's happening. The whole story is right now, what's happening today in our world with all this stuff.
Well, it's funny you say that, actually. That's a good segue because, I mean, your book's all about a spiritual awakening, which on this show, what we talk about spiritual awakenings a lot because it's a big topic of mine. Because I supposedly am going through my awakening at this point, according to many people I talk to, including my Reiki master life coach, and so I love this topic, spiritual awakening, but I always like to ask people this question. We've been told years and dates for a long time. 2012, I've been told 2015, I've been told 2008, and I've been told it hasn't really happened yet for like the mass global spiritual awakening.
Definitely hasn't happened yet. We're going through the fall right now. We're going through almost an apocalyptic situation here where things are falling apart. The hero in the book says the world is falling apart and waking up at the same time. And if you think about it, I mean, let's look at this. Like, let's say there's two types of awakening. One would be the spiritual awakening of myself and like, oh, why do I think those thoughts? Why do I say these things? Why did I do that to that person? But then, and I start to clean up the past stuff that makes me think that. Then there's another type of awakening I think that happens also, and it's when we awaken to what is going on in our world, and and being able to kind of call that out and go, oh. And so as we see these players get more and more ridiculous and more just like upfront with their crimes against humanity, we awaken to that truth of, wait a minute, something's really wrong here. So it's kind of like that. It's like all this crappy stuff that's going on is exposing our own darkness, and even maybe more importantly, in a lot of cases, the darkness that's pulling the strings of this planet right now. So,
Yes, yes. I have talked about what is called conspiracy theories many times about like stuff like that. I mean, Illuminati, NWO, Freemasonry, all that, all the invisible puppets that are behind it all, pulling the strings since, well, some of them the beginning of time. But
and
it's just,
Jeremy, they're not hiding it anymore. They're
yeah,
literally coming out and saying, this is what we're doing. It's not a conspiracy theory. It's out in the open. And the World Economic Forum guy, Klaus Schwab, he's just coming right out and saying it, you will own nothing and be happy. We are going to speed up the 2030 thing. They're just like everything. There's too many people on the planet. We need to reduce. They're literally saying it. We don't have to like wonder anymore,
yeah. You're not the lone gunman in the basement in the '90s trying to figure everything out.
That's
X Files,
right.
X Files reference for those who don't get it, but
That's right.
for the uncultured.
Uh,
But so in your book, people seem to be programmed to act in certain ways, which I could see how that kind of reflects on reality as well, because we are, for the most part, except for those of us who break free of it, we are basically programmed to all act the same on this earth in this present day for the last couple decades at least. If not before that, even. I mean, it can go back to the 50s if you really want to look at that. But I mean, it's so I'm assuming that you want to reflect reality by putting that in your book as well.
reflect the outer.
Reflect the outer end in the way of programming of humans being
Yes,
programmed to follow rules and
absolutely.
follow everything.
That's why we see so many people that are in resistance to going, oh wow, look at what they're up to. Instead, they're like, no, 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 this is great. This is the way it's supposed to be. They're out looking out for our best interest. There's so many people that won't let go of that because they would be lost without that. They're not, and maybe they're just going to be kind of NPCs, and they're just going to be part of this awakening, but not the ones that wake up. They're the ones that hold together the machine until it's time to crumble. And right now, the whole thing is falling apart. We see it. We're going to war all over. This is the beginning of something quite harsh, I mean, to be honest. And we've
Oh, God,
seen,
yeah.
yeah, you can see it. We've seen it for the last few years with the lockdowns and all this stuff, and crushing the global economy, and all by design. And now it's interesting because it doesn't mean that I think there's 47 men sitting around at a big table with fluffy white cats and shaved heads. I think it actually, unfortunately, is much worse than that, and it has to do with, I shouldn't say worse, but more deeper than that, and it has to do with the unseen realm, and two forces being played out right now: the darkness and the light. And the light always wins, and we're all worried about when, because we believe in time because we created time because we look in the mirror and we see ourselves go over time. We're leaving and we're like, well, this better happen before I go or before my kids. Well, the truth is we don't know. It all depends on when the collective consciousness reaches a certain point of awakening, then everything shifts, and we're not there yet at all. And I mean, the Kali Yuga and the Hindu tradition talks about us having many hundreds of years more to go, and the Book of Ra, Book of One, I think it's the raw material they call it. That's also 85 years away. So who knows, And in my book, though, we don't do that. We speed up the process. That's just kind of cool.
And it's funny because, I mean, and I like how you use the looking in the mirror reference because, I mean, we're not all Dorian Gray. We don't all look in the mirror and see the same thing for hundreds of years. But unfortunately, I wish I could have looked the same way I did when I was 25 for the rest of my life. But okay, I'll take what I have to gut take. But
me too.
It's programming the same way people on the news nowadays, which I'm avoiding the lockdown topic because I already had one video taken off YouTube for talking about the big C.
Oh,
but
okay.
Yeah, medical misinformation according to them. But
okay.
Gotta love the programming. But,
lockdowns are great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I did get 7 months to play video games and get paid by the government to do it. So I mean, take what you're given and be happy with it. But I mean, yeah, I mean, people are programmed ridiculously nowadays because I mean, how many times in the news do you see something like, "Oh, this asteroid is going to be closer to Earth than it's ever been before in the next year or two"? Oh, impending doom. Okay. Oh, but look, here's something about the Kardashians. Oh, well, we don't care about the previous thing anymore. The Kardashians are taking our attention away. And that's just one example of probably thousands of what they do on the news, like with the good, bad, to keep people distracted from it all. And I mean, who knows if they're even telling the truth about these type of things? I mean, it could be, like you said, the puppet masters pulling the strings of people saying, all right, you're going to tell the people this week, just to give them a little fear and to make them think like the government has their back and protecting them.
Yeah.
Am I wrong?
Yeah, it could be. None of us know, it's just crazy.
So from what you said about the beginning of the book, though, about the young man that grows up in the ghetto and is basically a victim, is that like a theme throughout the book is about the victims becoming the survivors in a way type of thing?
I would say the more of the theme is that we turn the victimhood into empowerment, and we find the gift in everything and all things that happen to us, supposedly, and realize that they're actually somehow, as crazy as it sounds, happening for us. That would be a very spiritual way to look at things. And that's what they end up doing in the book, is what the teacher teaches. And that's what happened with him and several other people as they go through their process of self-awakening and inner transformation, and they start to find that. And so everyone find that this is a truth, so they really start to every time something happens, and same thing in the community I'm in, when something happens here to somebody or with somebody, we always ask, okay, so how am I drawing this in and why? And I used to hate it when people would say that because I thought they were crazy, but now I see how true it is, that there's something there. Just as if you get in a relationship and the person comes in with something that's like, whoa, what? Well, there's some reason why that had to happen. There was something there for you to learn. Doesn't mean we need to stay with these people. Sometimes they come into our lives for us just to grow to a certain point and we move on. And so, yeah, the whole victimhood thing is first of all, it's the first step to awakening, is to realize that, okay, because you could say, I used to be one of these people who said there are no victims. And then I watched something Jordan Peterson, and I thought it made a lot of sense. And he says, we're all victims. We're the rock, the car, the dog, the cat. Everybody's a victim to what's happening here on planet Earth, which is our death, our going away and our pain and suffering. The tree, everything's going to disappear and die. So in a sense, yes, maybe we all are. It's what you do with that and how you can shift your perception. And that's how in the story, the guy helps people through what they're going through in their life, not to go around it and escape it or resist it, but through it.
Which makes sense in a way. I mean, you're right. We all learn life lessons by facing harsh realities at times. And I mean, hell, I know I did a lot in my life, and I know other people I know plenty of other people that have those same experiences too. But I mean, we always come out stronger on the other end or we don't make it out the other end. I mean, that's the two ways it goes.
That's right.
And
That's right.
I mean, as sad as that is to say, that's the way it has to be. Because if you're not meant to get through it, you're not meant to get through it. It's just fate. It's destiny.
Yeah, and some people, the thing might happen and then just remain bitter their whole lives, which is another type of death. I mean, what's it like to live a life of bitterness towards your ex, or bitterness towards a government or a people, or even in my case, like I'm pretty bitter about wokeness, like we were talking about, and at the
Yep.
same time, I have to like say, okay, no, this is really happening, and it needs to be here for some reason. Have compassion for these people because they're obviously quite damaged, and so this is their way of lashing out. Doesn't mean we need to change our world for them, which I think is the main thing we need to keep in check. No, we're not gonna, go here or go there or change that. No, because that, there's things that need to be looked at and shifted, obviously, but they've gone quite far, in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it's all important ideas and messages that need to be spread. I definitely agree with that. And hopefully your books help teach people some of that stuff, and they actually will it'll sink in, and they'll actually resonate with it, and they'll be like, okay. I mean, just wait. You'll get that review one day where someone will say, "You helped me get through this in my life," and then bam. Or if you haven't gotten them already,
Yeah, I've got them. Yeah.
Okay, I'll say. I'm like, I'm sure you have, but
Yeah.
but it's funny because I mean, same as I was talking about YouTube taking down my show a couple weeks ago. Are you afraid that with your book being so close to reality that the government will eventually try to shut you down, or somebody will try to shut you down?
You know, if something like that was to happen, and I have thought about it, yes. I think that it would do nothing but elevate the popularity of the book. So, like for me, shut me down means, okay, maybe there's a certain platform that won't carry it, but if I really wanted to, I could go and print these things myself and have a printing, have them stored somewhere. And a lot of people do that so they can make a lot more money on their book rather than print on demand. And
Yeah.
so yeah, no, I understand that it could happen because it definitely strikes deep, especially the second book, at what's happening in our world today. So yes, and I hope that it gets noticed to that point, and I hope the book, we'll call it, gets discovered. That's what I've been told is going to happen, and I just wrote the second one and it hasn't yet. But like again, I guess I'm not in charge. I just keep writing these things.
I mean, it's funny because the way you write them, it's almost like spirit writing. Because
Oh, to be honest with you, yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's like it's many mediums I've talked to. I've actually seen them do it on my show live, where they actually will. I'll ask them a question. They'll have me ask them a couple questions, and then they'll get answers. And like literally, just watching them write it down while like their eyes are like usually like in the back of their head, or something like that. Like it's insane. Like it's unbelievable. Something I never would believe unless I actually saw someone do it, which I have, and now I'm a huge believer in it.
Well, yeah, for me, it's hard to believe that I can sit down and write novels, and I'm a guy that's a high school dropout. I've never really read any books. I've listened to a few. So, I mean, to be able to write these things and for them to flow the way they do and to be a page turner and all these people like them, it's a sign that it's not really me, really. It's part. I think it's like you're obviously the person's playing a part. It's the vessel, and we all have. I believe every single human being has that in them in some way. There's some creative gift they have. And in my case, I think mine was given to me at this time because the world kind of needs it, and I needed to snap out of my sleepiness at the time and the person that I used to be, and become someone different. And I'm constantly working on myself. I'm by no means a saint at all. But I'm 100% better than I used to be. That's for sure.
Well, that's all that matters. I mean, we all should be better than we used to be. That should be an ongoing thing throughout our lives. Is we always find ways to better ourselves to some degree. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not going out there telling everybody like, oh, you need to change. But I mean, like, just pick one of your flaws, and if you can admit you have flaws, that's step one. And then pick
Step
one.
one.
Yeah, that's step one. Admit you have flaws. Pick one and find a way to work on it. I mean, if it takes years, it takes years, but at least you're doing something about it. At least you're not stuck in your programming of that's who you have to be for the rest of your life. To bring it
Agreed.
all
Yeah.
circle back, kind of. But it's funny because actually, well, since we were talking about hating wokeness, how do you feel about cancel culture?
Oh, it's for me, it's all the same. Um,
In a way,
I would, yeah, I wouldn't say I hate, because if I hate it, that means I almost there's too much of a close line to love there. I'd say I'm disgusted by it. I'm
yeah.
disgusted by every aspect of it. To cancel people because of some past anything, you know, I really admire the people who are uncancelable, the Joe Rogans and the people out there who just don't care, and they just keep doing what they do. Those are the heroes for me.
I agree. I mean, I'm not technically a Joe Rogan fan by any means, but I respect the man for what he does. I'll put it that way. I respect the man for
Me
what he
too.
does. I'm just not a fan of him personally. I never have been. His podcast always bored me. But that's me. I mean, there are plenty of other uncancelable people that I love too. I mean, freaking what the hell's his name? I mean, I respect the ones that that they were still around today would never have gotten canceled. Carlin, Dangerfield, like the ones
Oh
that
yeah.
they wouldn't have give a fuck what anybody said about their stuff. They would have just kept doing it no matter what, and you couldn't shut them down. And that's what the world needs is more people like that nowadays, because all the comedians nowadays are too afraid to say the jokes that are going to get them canceled, and it's making comedy less and less funny.
It is, but it's starting to change a little bit, because it's an opportunity for those who are like, you know what, I'm like, even Dave Chappelle's come out and said some things, that the
Oh yeah,
woke hasn't liked, and that's heroic. And I think we're gonna see. I think it's gonna create this opportunity for comedians to be even funnier by just coming out and doing it, like you're saying, like right in the face of it all. I think that's coming in a big way. I think it's gonna really. There's got to be, because it doesn't, this woke thing and cancel culture and all this virtue signaling, all of it is quite, I would call it demonic in nature, because it's always, you have to create another person as a victim so that you can be this savior, and then you have to have a perpetrator in this triad, right? And so the victim has to stay down. You can never like let them know, hey, you're okay. It doesn't matter if that person over there doesn't like you. You're fine, man. You're much bigger than that. No, you've got to look. No, poor you. I'm the one up here. Bad you. That bullshit. That's got to change, because that's, for me, it's like the pure darkness coming out through people.
I agree. I mean, there's a lot of dark things at work nowadays, and I, I mean, it's scary. I mean, as someone who practices Reiki, I mean, my Reiki master tells me all the time, like, if we go a month without meeting, when she does her session with me, it's just, she always tells me, like, you have so much darkness in you right now that I just pulled out. I'm like, yeah, living in this world, I don't doubt it. I'm like, I don't even do anything. I don't even do anything that's gonna make me have darkness. It just naturally comes in this world. Like, you hear things, you hear the way people talk in public, and it's just like, shoot. I mean, I used to work in retail, and I'm so happy I don't anymore, because I used to have to hear the freaking conversations of people in shopping stores, and oh my god,
Oh,
that's pure torture.
yeah.
It's literally pure torture when you're in the same aisle for an hour listening to two ladies talk about things they don't like about celebrities or the world.
Oh,
That's just like, oh my god, no, just make it stop. Like, turn the music up higher or something. Come on. It's torture.
good.
It really is. So let me ask you this: have you thought about your books becoming possibly a TV series or movies eventually?
Yeah, it's funny, like within this creative channel that's opened up, I have the music lined up for every scene. I know what everything looks like. Um, yes. Would Hollywood ever take it? No, I don't think so. But there are other ways nowadays to get books turned into movies. There's a studio out there called Angel Studios, and they do this thing where people pay to watch, and they're paying for someone else to watch it for people who don't want to pay or can't pay, and kind of a pay it forward program. And then they actually produce movies, and so I think, again, once it gets discovered, people are probably going to come up and have these ideas. I've even thought about at least turning them into animated shorts that I could put on YouTube, and find some kind of animation that's not too expensive that I could do, because that would be fun. Because nowadays I guess people don't read books that are that thick, and I don't know why I wrote them that thick. It's just the way it comes every single time. They're the same size exactly. It's weird.
Because they're meant to be that size. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that's true. There are still plenty of people I know that read some thick ass books. I'm talking like
Yeah.
Lord of the Rings trilogy and complete book. Like, I know people that read books like that still. So, I mean, I read some, it's hard to tell anymore with Kindle, but I mean, I read some heavy pages in books, that's for sure. But, I mean, you can't read Stephen King and not enjoy 1,000 pages about the town before you get to the story. But,
yeah.
but, and oof. Okay, you said you have the music set. I gotta ask because I am a music podcast from my other podcast. Tell me there's Marilyn Manson in that soundtrack somewhere.
Not yet, but I could put it in there. That's a good one.
I mean, obviously, I haven't read your books yet. Unfortunately, I definitely am going to be looking into acquiring them. But I am assuming at the end of one of those movies, "Great Big White World" would be a great song.
Okay, I'll check it out.
I'm assuming it's a very New Day apocalyptic type thing. It's kind of like it's a good song. It's a good song. I mean, anything off Manson's early stuff would be good for that type of stories. I would believe, or any 2000s rocker like that. But there's a lot of them.
Yeah, for sure.
Zombie too. But so I gotta ask you this: since you're in, how long have you been in Costa Rica? Before I ask this, that's that.
30 something years.
Oh Jesus, okay.
Yeah.
So, have you heard of El Cadejos?
Who?
El Cadejos.
El Codejos.
Cadejos.
How do you spell that word?
Cadejo.
CAD. Say it again.
Cadejos.
CADGEOS.
CAD. Yeah, CADEJOS.
Oh, Cadejos. No, I've never heard of El Cadejos. What does that mean?
It's actually the Costa Rican version of the hellhound or black dog myth. Ghostly black dogs or ghostly hellhounds, like, is basically the synopsis of it.
Oh, okay.
It's the Costa Rican version. I mean, they even have their own name for it. And people see it out in the forest, I guess, at night, and they usually have red glowing eyes.
Oh, never heard of that.
I mean, well, okay, that's a good thing for you because I mean, the typical story of them down there is that they're known to take out drunkards coming home late at night. So,
I've never heard of anything like that. No, I've been here a long time.
Oh, see,
okay,
yeah. I mean, well, maybe now that's in your head. You'll hear about it.
Yeah. I'm gonna see one tomorrow, probably.
I hope not. I really hope not for your sake. But I mean, I don't know. Do they have like ghost stories down there? Really, like anything like that, or is just
nothing?
Really, I mean, I imagine they'd be more attuned with nature down there and everything than we are in the States, because in the States, nature is torn down and ripped up. But
it's very green here.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I would imagine. I would imagine that there's a reason it's a vacation destination usually.
Yeah.
But, so, is there any talk down there of extraterrestrials, UFOs, that type of thing, or?
No, I've seen some things out there over the ocean. I lived on the beach, literally on the beach, for 24 years of my life, and I've seen some interesting light. One time it was very, very, like, right in front of us, and like these little things dropping down towards the ocean. Big, it was wild. I don't know what it was, you know.
Yeah, I mean, the ocean is synonymous for UFO sightings because it's highly believed that there are bases under the ocean that extraterrestrials have used for thousands of years to dock and whatnot and do whatever they do on this earth. Because I mean, we're talking about things the government is all of a sudden telling us is happening, and then during the Big C, UFOs get announced by Trump. Like, oh, there's UFOs. They're real, by the way. So just so everybody who since the 40s has been trying to figure that out, yeah, they're real.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're saying that now. Yeah.
I mean, it is. I mean, because it's almost like they want us to be distracted, but at the same time, they want to reveal things just to test us and see how we're going to react when something big comes.
I agree.
if they want to tell us UFOs exist, okay, are you trying to gauge the reaction for when there's actually an invasion by an alien species or something? Like,
Or they
what do you
create
do?
an invasion. Who knows, right?
I mean, hey, War H.G. Wells may have been writing future truth with War of the Worlds. Who knows?
Yeah.
But you said in the beginning that you were really into plant medicine, and just kind of curious because as I said, I've talked to some people about that before. But what different plants do you guys like to use in your retreats?
Mainly, well, we say plant medicine. So the main concoction is called ayahuasca. That's the real popular one.
Yep.
Um, I've had that journey hundreds of times, and it's very strong, very amazing. Need to do it with the right people, that's for sure. If someone wants to do
Yeah.
that, it's the key. The right person that's holding that space and taking care of everybody. It's never something you would do alone ever. I mean, once you become, like quite the psychonaut, like I've done it a few times alone, but it's much better with people because it's like a circle and you can feel the energy in the circle shift and the music and everything's quite phenomenal. And then there's a medicine that I serve that comes from a toad. That was the one that Mike Tyson talks about a lot. Um, they call it Bufo avarius, which is DMT5-MeO. That's the molecule.
Ooh.
Um, yeah, I've served many people that medicine. And then there's one called Iboga, and that comes from Africa, and that's a root bark, and you're just eating straight root bark, and that is a very powerful journey.
I can't imagine the root bark tastes good.
None of this stuff tastes good. None of it. All of it tastes like hell, like the worst thing you could imagine. Like there's no way to put it into words how bad it is. And I think that's like to keep us from wanting to do it all the time. And it works because it's that bad. Yeah, especially boga. It is terrible. Ayahuasca is terrible tasting. Sometimes when your first time with ayahuasca, you're drinking, oh, it wasn't that bad. But once you've had it several times, you're just dreading it, dreading it.
Yeah. I mean, it's like when you're a kid taking that cold medicine. You gotta get past it just to get the effect of it. Like you gotta get past the taste. But it's just
This is so bad. It's hard to even explain. All of it
I
though, peyote, all of it tastes terrible.
well, I mean, in a way, that's kind of nature's way of telling us don't take it. Like don't. I mean, whether it's nature telling us that or whether this world was pre-programmed like a simulation theory, who knows? But
Hmm.
I mean, it was obviously designed to taste bad so that animals and humans wouldn't want to eat it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I would probably die laughing if I ever saw like a deer or bear on ayahuasca. I swear to God, I would probably die laughing.
A what?
If you ever saw like a deer or a bear on like ayahuasca or peyote, like it would probably be the funniest thing in the world. They'd
Oh,
probably
you see much more than that, my friend. You go behind the inner workings of our universe and see how things are moving, and it's amazing. And go out to the 10th dimension, ayahuasca, and like see things that you can't even. There's no way to put it into words. It's that strong. It's
be
beautiful.
interesting.
Yeah.
It is, and that's a big topic nowadays. Though is DMT and all the different
Right.
plants you could take to basically, for lack of a better word, trip. Like for the old '70s words of it, but I mean it's to
Well, I
have an
don't know. Yeah.
experience. I should say.
Yeah. I mean, we definitely don't do it to trip because
Oh,
tripping is like a bunch of friends hanging out and taking, a handful of mushrooms. Oh, this is trippy. This is more of a spiritual experience, and you have like people that are working in the shamanic world come and serve the medicines, and you hopefully get the right one. And they're not there for the money; they're there for that. That comes, I mean, it's part of the deal. But it's you need to find people who are heart centered first, and then you're off to the races. But there's a lot of folks out there who are serving medicine, don't know what they're doing, so it's a little tricky.
I mean, it's the same as any professional in the paranormal spiritual world. There are good ones and bad ones of every profession. I mean, you can go to a medium who's just there to rob you and just will make up things to tell you just because they'll read you. They'll basically read you and just be like, okay, here's what I'm gonna tell you because I know it's gonna be something you'll automatically assume is for you, and you're still gonna give me the money at the end of it. So okay, I mean,
Yeah.
it's the same. It's the same thing for any professional in these fields. Like they're not there's no better business bureau or anything like that for these professions. They're just not yet, at least. I think that day is coming, honestly. I think it is, but because all these fields are becoming more and more important in the world. And I think that's part of the spiritual awakening, is that more people are trying to wake up. So they're trying all these things that back 20 years ago would have been considered like something you shouldn't do, something that's taboo, something that's illegal. Like, but now more and more people are opening up to it.
Yeah, it's becoming legal in a lot of places too.
Yes, it is. And that's, I mean, with the people of this world, that's a good and a bad thing, because there are plenty of just people out there that are not intelligent, and they're just going to use it wrong, and it's going to make it look bad for everybody else, because the same thing that happened to marijuana back in the 50s, 60s. But
yeah,
I mean, at least to me. But well, Mike, I got to say, it's been an honor talking to you. But before we go, what is the message you want people to get from your book? Like, if there's one message you want people to get from your books, what would it be?
that we're all headed towards a massive shift on the planet, and you can either be a part of that positive end of it, or you can be one of the players that's doing the other thing. And you came here to wake up. All of us did, in some incarnation. So why not make it now? And you're much bigger than they are telling you you are. We are much powerful, especially together. So we can get through this thing and come out on the other side with our hands in the air raised in victory. It can happen. It will happen. It's just when. So do your best. Start here first inside. Have that awakening yourself. Do your best in life, and it's a great place to start reading these. My first book, for people who are really new to this whole idea, the first book really brings you in. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure it does, and I definitely will be looking for it. It's on my list. Trust me, it's already on my list with a lot of other books by other authors that have been in my shows as well, because it's just so many good books, so little time in the world to actually sit down and read them.
Yeah.
Especially you have kids. Just saying. But it's
okay.
but where can they find you, Mike? Where can they find your books? Just basically anything you want to promote, feel free to promote it.
Okay. MichaelMcGinnis.com. Maybe you could put it down at the bottom of the thing there. McGinnis, not the U like the beer. McGinnis, MichaelMcGinnis.com. And then the books are on Amazon. Book one is an Audible as well. Both books are on Amazon, so you can listen to them, read them. Yeah, that's a bit. Pretty much the best way.
And of course, those links will be in the podcast description as well, so people can just click and go. Of course. Great. And I want to thank you for coming on. It's been a real pleasure talking to you and learning. I mean, definitely learned some interesting things here about plants, and got to have a good conversation about things I believe in, things we believe in. So it works. It worked for me greatly. Good. And to all my listeners, watchers, you know where you can find me. If you don't by now, you're being lazy. Stop it. And if you're being lazy, just check out the outro. Okay? Then everything's there. I don't need to say it 1,000 times then. But until next time, I thank you all for coming to listen, to watch. Be sure to like and subscribe wherever you are enjoying this. And until next time, I believe I'll be back this weekend with another one-on-one bracket or two. So come check it out. Have a good night, everybody.